Welcome to Geek on Film with your host, Robbie Holmes. Hey there, friends. This is Robbie Holmes, your host here at Geek on Film. This week we're going to be discussing a couple of rewatches, a couple of new watches, and then our main review of Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So the first film for me this week was Passengers, the 2016 film written by John Spates and directed by Morton Tildum. It is storyline from our friends at IMDb is a spaceship, the spaceship Starship Avalon, in its 120-year voyage to a distant colony planet known as the Homestead Colony and transporting 5,258 people, has a malfunction in one of its sleep chambers. As a result, one hibernation pod opens prematurely, and the one person that awakes, Jim Preston, Chris Pratt, is stranded on the starship, still 90 years from its destination. I want to say up front, I did not like this film. I didn't like what the story was telling us. I didn't like how it was executed. The way that the character that is being played by Chris Pratt, Jim Preston, is this sort of a little self-deprecating, a little overconfident, a little self-important, and it's just not a fun character to watch. So I feel like Chris Pratt might have gotten shackled with a character that is hard to like. Jennifer Lawrence's character, Aurora Lean, is awakened by Chris Pratt eventually because he has seen her in a pod and he thinks she's beautiful, and then he watches a whole bunch of videos from her and then reads her books and basically decides he would like to spend the next 90 years with her and doom her to never experience the life that she signed up for, which was she's a journalist or a writer who was going to go to the colony, report from there, and get back on a ship and go back home. And she would have been the first person to do that, to have traveled out to the colony and then back and then write about it. She was willing to give up her life at home. She was willing to give up access to all of her friends and the life she had. Yeah, it's not great. I think there's some very cool concepts. I think the ship itself looks beautiful. I think it's shot beautifully. There's a sequence in a pool where gravity has some malfunction, and it is one of the coolest concepts I've seen in a sci-fi film. But boy, this film left me cold, and I really didn't enjoy it. I don't feel like we got at all the fun that this concept could have, but it's really hard to go into a film like this where you're like, I'm going to choose to end that person's life on this ship, and then accept that as a protagonist decision. It's very complicated. I didn't like it. I the whole time felt like I didn't like Jim Preston. I didn't like that he put his life and his happiness above someone else's. I was just very off-put by the film. So I'm going to jump into a second first-time watch. So the second film for this week was Poison, which is one of Wes Anderson's directed adaptations of a Roald Dahl short story. So the storyline for this, thank you IMDb, is when a poisonous snake slithers into an Englishman's stomach in India, his associate and a doctor race to save him. Oh, Passengers, available on Stars, but don't waste your time. Poison is available on Netflix, and I found this really fun. Benedict Cumberbatch's character Harry is laying in bed, and there is a poisonous snake laying on his stomach under the sheet. And his friend Woods, who's played by Dev Patel, comes into the room and says that he needs help and sends him to go get the doctor. The doctor is Ben Kingsley, who plays Dr. Gandabe. This is so fun. This is a tight, unbelievable 17-minute film. Benedict Cumberbatch's Harry is a tool. Woods is a good friend. The doctor is frustrated by Harry's jerkness. This is you could absolutely spend a worse 17 minutes in your life. These all these shorts from Wes Anderson from the Roald Dahl collection are unbelievably fun. They have different level of enjoyment for me, but all of them have been on the fun side. This one is short and is absolutely worth the time, and I think probably my second favorite short up to this point. I think up to this point, I would say that the wonderful story of Henry Sugar is probably my favorite, and then this, and then the Rat Catcher. I haven't seen the Swan yet. That's the last one. Hopefully next week. You should jump over and watch that over on Netflix. It's really fun. Right. So another first time viewing for me is a film, a classic film in queer cinema called The Doom Generation from 1995. Let's jump over to our friends at IMDb. Here is the story. Jordan White and Amy Blue, two troubled teens, pick up an adolescent drifter, Xavier Red. Together, the threesome embark on a sex and violence filled journey through an America of psychos and quickie marts. This movie's fun. It feels like, at first, I felt like it was trying to be transgressive in a way that today wouldn't align or wouldn't feel as transgressive. But, Rose McGowan being hypersexual but very in control of her world is super fun. She's sort of like manic pixie dream girl on steroids. Like, she's crazy beautiful and also sort of like controlling of everything that happens around her. You've got James Duval playing Jordan, who is this like super sweet, cares about Amy unbelievably, is not the most alpha E of personalities. And then they pick up Xavier Red, who's played by Jonathan Sketch, and he is just zero fucks given incarnate. He is, yeah. The movie is fun. I think I found myself it was a little slow, probably in the like early second third. Like, it opens a little propulsive, then it gets a little repetitive. But anything I could say about it not being transgressive gets completely thrown out the window in the last 20 minutes, because the decisions made, what happens to the characters, and what the director and writer Greg Aronofsky creates is something truly different, dystopian, and dark. So I think it's still a movie that you should watch. Apparently, the restoration that exists today in 4K made the director Greg very happy. It's been restored and it has a 5.1 soundtrack, and it was reshown, I think, at Sundance this year in 2023. It's currently on the Criterion Channel, and I think it's definitely worth your time. It's a little long, but it is one of those films that probably was on a lot of cool up and coming independent filmmakers' radars and influenced them from the mid 90s. Here we go into some rewatches. I rewatched The Social Network again. This is a film I feel like I've watched now like twice in the last 3 or 4 months. Our friends over at the Blank Check podcast are doing a Fincher overview, like I mentioned last week, and this gave me an opportunity to revisit this film again. My wife was working late one night, and I just sat on the couch, drank a glass of wine, and just fell back into this film. This is David Fincher, Aaron Sorkin. David Fincher as the director, Sorkin and Ben Mesrich as the writers. This, I think this is probably my favorite Fincher at this point. Let's jump into the storyline. On a fall night in 2003, Harvard grad and computer programming genius Mark Zuckerberg sits down at his computer and heatedly begins working on a new idea. In a fury of blogging and programming, what begins in his dorm room soon becomes a global social network and a revolution in communication. A mere 6 years and 500 million friends later, Mark Zuckerberg is the youngest millionaire in history. But for this entrepreneur, success leads to both personal and legal complications. I love this film. I think this is maybe my favorite film score of all time. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's score is it's so evocative of what's going on. I listen to the score on its own on a regular basis. It is sort of my driving music or my working music if I need some heads down time. The cast is top notch from top to bottom. You've got Jesse Eisenberg playing Mark Zuckerberg. You've got Andrew Garfield playing Eduardo Saverin. You've got Justin Timberlake playing Sean Parker. Rooney Mara plays Erica Albrecht, who is the girl that sort of spurns Mark Zuckerberg at the beginning. I don't know that we even need the story of him being a spurned dude that spitefully did what he's doing. I don't know that that is what makes this movie work. But it's great to see Rooney Mara here, and she's in a completely different type of role than she's in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. But she still has a ton of agency and argument, and like stands her ground against Mark, who's kind of a jerk. The banter in that opening sequence, though, is pretty unbelievable. Like, it's so Sorkin-y, it's so back and forth. It even has a little bit of like the Mammoty over talking on one another. That's pretty universal in Mamet films. It feels lived in. It feels real. You can see that the frustration of her with Mark's pattern and what he focuses on. This film is unbelievable. It is now in my Letterboxd top 4 favorite films. It's slowly growing in every rewatch. I like it more. And the saddest part for me is I'm a big physical media collector, and the only way to get the 4K version of this is to buy the Columbia Classics Volume 2, which is 6 movies, and it is the only place to get the 4K Blu-ray of this movie. And I don't feel like I want to spend, gray market prices of almost $200 to buy this package. I wish that they would just release a Social Network 4K Blu-ray and make it available to the rest of us. I don't really want that Columbia Classics box set. But I do want and purchased the LP version of the soundtrack and have been listening to that in my home. Really, really love this film. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Go in with open eyes, and you think you know the story, and that's not even the point. The point is how well the story is told, how well it's acted, the unbelievable dialogue that's being delivered by these amazing actors. Yeah, pretty great. Thank you, Blank Check. More Blank Checky goodness. Here we go. I rewatched Gone Girl for the first time in a while. Social Network is available right now on Netflix, so watch it over there. Rewatch of Gone Girl. It's been a while since I've seen it, and all the David Fincheriness over on Blank Check. So here's the story if you don't know it. On the occasion of his 5th wedding anniversary, Nick Dunn reports that his wife, Amy, has gone missing. Under pressure from the police and a growing media frenzy, Nick's portrait of a blissful union begins to crumble. Soon his lies, deceits, and strange behavior have everyone asking the same dark question. Did Nick Dunn kill his wife? Thank you, IMDb. This film was written by Gillian Flynn, who wrote the original book that this is based on. And the director for this is Fincher. You've got Ben Affleck playing Nick Dunn. You've got Rosamund Pike playing Amy Dunn. Neil Patrick Harris playing Desi Collins. And Tyler Perry playing Tanner Bolt, who is the lawyer that Nick eventually hires. Carrie Coon playing Margot, Nick's sister. And a huge portion of this movie, Kim Dickens playing the detective who's looking into the actual disappearance. Patrick Fugit playing the officer who the detective's partner. This film is unbelievable. A great Missy Pyle cameo and role. I will say the thing about this film for me is I found it a little slow. I think this is a problem I've felt with most of Gillian Flynn's scripts. Is I think great concepts, good stories, but a little slow in the telling of the story. I think the approach for me felt halted, stilted. I know that this is sort of a half and half type story that we get one perspective for a long time and then it switches to a second perspective. But it even getting to the second perspective, I was about like 40 minutes in and I was like, God, I cannot believe that there's like another hour and 20 minutes of this movie. It's not anybody's fault. I think honestly, the actors are all fantastic. I think the visuals on this film are crisp and beautiful. I think the acting across the board is clear. I just feel like it is a pacing issue in the script, and I wish I feel like this is a film that could be re-edited and would shape out 10, 11 minutes and really make it a much cleaner, much more effective. But who am I? I'm not Fincher or his editor. Um, I say like generally this is like a solid 3.5 to 4 star film. I think there is a 4.5 star film hiding inside of it. So it is currently playing on Max, the one to watch for HBO. And then I went to my mother in law's and showed her this past weekend. We sat down and watched Barbie. Really fun to sit down and watch that with my wife and her mom. If you haven't seen Barbie, thank you to IMDb. Here's our story. It is Barbie suffers a crisis that leads her to question her world and her existence. Seems a little short. All right. So Barbie is a phenomenon this year. It made over $1.4 billion. It was written by Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig and directed by Gerwig. The titular Barbie is played by Margot Robbie. Ryan Gosling plays Ken. Issa Rae plays Barbie. Kate McKinnon plays Weird Barbie. So many Barbies, so many Kens. I'm so glad I rewatched this. It's propulsive. It's fun. It has a lot to say in a fun package. I was caught up in the Barbenheimer of it all, and it's still, even after the hype, is a really amazing movie. The use of Billie Eilish's "What Was I Made For" and the threading of it all the way through the movie when you watch it a second time, and how many times that sound cue is triggered. Good lord, it like I was kind of ready to cry like 6 times in this movie. Like it's such an effective use of that amazingly beautiful song that I know is coming because I've seen it before. I really enjoyed this movie. I don't think I could give it a higher mark. I think for the for a movie about a pop culture icon doll and the world that she lives in and the company that made her, this is such a solid 4 to 4.5 star film. And Margot Robbie is fantastic. I cannot get over how she feels innocent and plastic. She's the choices she makes as Barbie are really unbelievable. I think Ken is Ryan Gosling is so fun in this movie. Ryan Simu is like Nemesis. There's so much fun here. I had a blast. I think if you haven't watched it up to this point, I don't know where you've been. I mean, it made $1.4 billion. I bought it on 4K Blu-ray. It sounds phenomenal. It looks phenomenal. You should do yourself a favor and watch Barbie. All right, there we go. That is the films I watched this week. Before we get to the main review, so here we go. The Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Oh, okay. This is the prequel film to the Hunger Games series. It is written by Michael Leslie, Michael Arndt, and Suzanne Collins, who's the author of the books. And it is directed by Francis Lawrence. Francis Lawrence directed the second and the split part third film. So this is the fourth film out of the five that this director has directed. The storyline for this is the story of Coriolanus Snow years before he would become the tyrannical president of Panem. He is handsome and charming, and through the Snow family has fallen. Though the Snow family has fallen on hard times, Coriolanus sees a chance for a change in his futures when he is chosen to be the mentor for the 10th Hunger Games, only to have his elation dashed when he is assigned to mentor a girl tribute named Lucy Graybird from the impoverished District 12. Taking a breath. I usually don't want to have main reviews of films I didn't enjoy. I decided to go see this movie with my wife. She had read the book. She was very excited to see it. And I think this is as solid a 3-star movie as I've seen this year. I don't think there's anything wrong with this movie except for the fact that it tries to be two movies brought together. And because of the reception of Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2 that happened when they split that book into two books, I believe they were very gun shy to do that in this film. There's a lot of backlash, and I think that hurt this book. I honestly think this book would have been a much more interesting limited series on a prestige network. because there's a lot more detail I think that is necessary. I heard somebody describe this as a good companion to the book, but you kind of need the book. I felt kind of lost at times. I asked my wife a couple of times who had read the book afterwards about some of the details, and I I feel like there's also like a it's also a complicated story about a fascistic future president of a world. Do we want to have that be sort of the protagonist of a film? And were you clamoring to find out why this guy is the sort of dictatory, tyranty guy that he is? Um, I don't know. I don't feel like it was made for me. I really enjoyed the Hunger Games films. I read all the books. I think the first book is cool. I think the first movie is a little uh, is cool because it's introducing the concept to the world. But I think the second movie is probably the best, and I think the third book and uh, movies feel a little long in the tooth. Um, it feels repetitive in a lot of ways, and then tries to tell an additional story. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I think I've liked the Hunger Games books and worlds, and the films are really fun, and I think it made I mean Jennifer Lawrence is fantastic in those films, and it really was the film that brought her into sort of America's hearts. I think they would try to do similarly here with Rachel Zegler as Lucy Gray Bird, and she's good. She's an amazing singer. She feels really playing a little bit against type. The character is supposed to be this sort of Loretta Lynn style, almost like folky, and she's got a great voice, and it just doesn't. It's not who I would have expected they cast. So she's so good in what she does. She makes it work, but it was sort of. I'm not surprised based on what her career is and where she's going and how good she is as an actress and singer. It's, the whole thing's a little confusing. And then Tom Blythe is really he's charming and good in this film, but together they have very little actual chemistry. We're supposed to believe that he may give up everything for her, and it's very stale, very stagnant. There's not a lot of spark there. And you've got great other actors. You've got Viola Davis playing Dr. Volumnia Gall, who is the sort of game master. And then, you've got Peter Dinklage playing the person who runs the school. This whole storyline of like the school that Coriolanus and his friends go to is this sort of upper crusty school where he is sort of faking it that he's rich and his family hasn't fallen on hard times. I think there's a lot here. I think is a lot missing from the film to give you what this movie was. So I'm going to say I think this film should have been made into a series. I think I probably should have read the book given the type of story this was. But people often talk about having to do homework before they watch a movie. I went into this because I was hopeful that it would just introduce me to this world. It's fun to revisit this world, to see the Hunger Games in a previous incarnation. Jonathan Schwartzman is just chewing up the scenery and having a good time. He has some of the darkest lines I've seen in a movie. It's so darkly funny, some of the stuff that he's doing. Yeah, I don't have much more to say. I was a little saddened because I wanted to enjoy this film. I know how much the book my wife was excited about, and we came out of it and we were both a little disappointed. I think me more so than her because she had the background and the knowledge. But even her, she said it's a little long, and it didn't have the impact I think she was expecting. That's it for me. Let's call it there, folks. I'm Robbie the Geek everywhere online. We are Geek on Film Com on Twitter and Instagram. And then John is John Hoche, JONHOCHE. From your friends here at Geek on Film, happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. This has been a Geek on Film podcast. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.